Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Riko Snow Game Show, where we talk about all kinds of games: video games, board games, card games, word games, mind games, whatever kind of games has got our attention this week. Joining me today is our co-host, Wrath,
What's going on, everyone?
and today we talk about Heaven's Ward, the upcoming expansion for Final Fantasy XIV, as well as the games we're looking forward to coming out at the end of the month. But before that, we talk a bit about last year's Dragon Age Inquisition, and Wrath gives us his take on what many consider to be 2014's Game of the Year.
The first thing we want to do is talk a little bit about just what we've been playing recently. I know that I've been away from home a lot this week. I've been going back and revisiting Final Fantasy VIII on my PSP, but what about you, Wrath? What have you been doing here lately besides the MMO?
Well, pretty much been checking out Dragon Age Inquisition. It's a very interesting game. It has a lot of side quests you could do when you don't just have to bum rush through the storyline. There's multiple things you could do with the game. I'm really interested. I really like the religion, the way they went about in the religion.
Me too.
Game. I think that's something really cool.
That
The
was
fact
like
that the game. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, that was one thing I definitely noticed about it was, I've never seen another game handle the idea of religion like this one does, because it never really gives it away. Like, this is definitely the truth behind everything. You could take anything that happens to be one way or the other.
If you want to believe one thing, you could. If you choose to not believe in it, that's also your choice. I like the way they did that. I think that was very, really, really cool about it. And one thing that actually I really enjoyed was the fact that the game is called Dragon Age, and you get your chance to fight not one but 12 different dragons in the game. That to me was cool. And besides the fact that you fight 12 different dragons, you can actually make armor, weapons, and stuff from the dragons that you kill. I personally think that's something that's really cool.
Yeah, because you could kind of have that with Skyrim, but I don't know, to me it seemed like the dragons in Inquisition were just they felt more like actual dragons. Like, if you managed to take one of these guys down, it felt like a real
it was
fight.
it was an actual fight. Unlike Skyrim, when you bumped into a dragon, it would take you a good 60 seconds to take one down. Where in this one, it will actually take you a good amount of time, a good 15 or 20 minutes to kill one dragon, if you're lucky and you're really good, and you go into the battle extremely geared and prepared for the fight. But when you have no idea what you're getting yourself into and you get into it, I guarantee it's gonna be a fail.
Yeah, like, I don't think I haven't actually gone back and killed any yet, because we didn't, where we didn't have, other than like the main story dragon, on the very first playthrough, that was the only one I killed. Now, I went and fought one for the fun of it, but I just wasn't at a high enough level to really challenge the dragons yet. So I still need to go back in and finish that second playthrough and actually get to take on the dragons and stuff.
One thing that I also could say that I actually really liked about the game is the way you pretty much control the storyline. There's multiple ways you could go about with the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
For example, with the quest where God, I forgot the name of it. When you have to walk in the well, whether you choose whether you want to be the one to walk in the well or you want to.
Right. Or you want that other party member to.
Exactly. I found that really cool where you choose what you want to do in that part of the storyline.
Yeah.
I also enjoy the part where everything was with the politics, with the queen, her cousin.
Yeah.
I like that. I enjoyed that mission a lot because if you actually play it right, you know, the typical story will go, you choose to kill one and then move on to the next part of the storyline. But if you take time and effort into it, you can actually get all three of them and blackmail all three of them to work under you for the Inquisition, which to me was actually pretty cool. You
Yeah.
understand? If you wanted to end up working with the elf, having her lead the country, you could have did that. If you wanted the the aggressive brother, cousin that believed in war and things that war is the way to go about everything, you could have did that. Or if you wanted to have the queen at the moment, the one that believes in peace and you know communicating and talking to things through would have been the right way. You could have did that as well. I found that I personally found that very very intriguing that you could get all three of them that don't really like each other and get enough evidence on each and every single one of them to blackmail them to say, hey, well, you know what, guys, if you guys can't come up with a solution yourself, well, um, I'm gonna force you guys to work for me, and this is how it goes. I thought that was really cool. I don't know about anybody else, but that personally to me was
Yeah. Well, I mean,
great.
that was one of the things that I really liked about Inquisition, and I think um, that segment there is it's a good example of how uh, the the game gives you options to play it in different ways. Like if you want to be, if you're more of a casual player, you just want to enjoy the main storyline, you know, there's a whole lot of content you don't ever even have to touch. But then if you want to be like that ultimate badass and like you want to have, your hand in every event across the whole continent pretty much, you can spend the time and you can have the difficulty ramped up or whatever you want to do and just, it caters to a bunch of different play styles without any of those options feeling broken or
Yeah,
unbalanced.
I completely agree. That's something I enjoyed as well. Oh, another thing that I found very interesting is the way they went about the love thing in the game. You know,
Hmm.
where they weren't ashamed to say, hey, if you are a homosexual person, you can marry another guy. If you are, if you're interested in women, if whatever, however you want to go about it, you could have did that. You didn't necessarily have to say, hey, well, I like this character and I have to, and I'm gonna marry, but I can't marry this character because I'm a guy and I'm a guy. No, you had your options to marry any character you want to and have a love interest with any character you want to. Certain characters prefer other characters, obviously, but if you played your cards right, there was always a possibility that you could
Yeah.
get that character to fall in love with you,
You had
and
you had a lot more options however you wanted to do it than even past Bioware games, which have been pretty open in that area. But even for Bioware, it was, you know most of the people, your important people in your party, were an option some way or another, and it never felt forced either. Like it didn't feel like oh, this character uh you know is gay just because we want it to be a gay character. It just, that part of their personality of who they were just seemed a natural fit for them without them falling into like a
yeah,
weird stereotype or anything like that.
exactly. And the thing, with the story, back to the storyline thing again, where you had multiple options. Where okay, well, hey, I like magic. I'm gonna go with the magic storyline. But hey, I like Templars, and I'm gonna go with the Templar storyline. I think that was also very cool. The fact that you go based on what you preferred. If you wanted to be a magician that worked for the empire, you could have did that. If you wanted to be a magician that went against the empire and believed in freedom and stuff, you could have did that as well.
Yeah.
Understand? Like and then if you wanted to help the magic people advance, throughout the game, you could have did that. If you wanted to help the Templars when they was losing themselves, you could have did that. The same thing with the Black Wardens. I think that was a really good twist into the game that I don't know, the game. I personally personally, overall, I'll give the game a solid 8, just because
I
there
think
was
that's fair.
so much content involved, so much things you could do. It wasn't necessarily, hey, I'm gonna just run through the storyline and it was over. Once you beat the game once, you wanted to go back again and wanted to
Yeah.
try it again with a different storyline to see what you missed out. And that personally to me means a lot, because I am the kind of guy, I could sit down and I could focus on the game and come home and play the game 60 hours straight, not play any other game because that's the game I'm into at the moment.
Yeah.
And for the fact that I can beat a game in 60 hours and get everything I wanted to in the first playthrough and then go back and then do it again and get different content.
Yeah. And I think that's why, you know, like you said, an 8 is a fair rating for that game, in my opinion, because even though it does a lot of things right, if I think you could have at least given it a 9, if not a 10, you know, if you're going to use a rating scale. If, you know, without spoiling anything, you know, if you haven't already played the game yet, you know, the very, very end, the very finale of the game seems kind of disconnected from everything else you did. Like, everything else part of your story feels nice and connected and it flows, but that very last mission, it was like, with the exception of maybe one or two choices, like nothing really affects that fight. You know, it's not like in Mass Effect 2, you know, where every little thing you did, everything you did for all your party members, you know, it had a direct effect on whether somebody lived or died in that final mission. You know, so that was kind of disappointing. But, you know, like we said, I mean, it did so many other things right. The combat was fun. It still had a tactical element if you want that. And there's, you know, like you said, there's a lot of hours that you can pour into this game and just have fun with it. So, you know, it doesn't ruin the whole experience. It just would have been nice if that ending could have been
more
at
connected,
the same level of quality that everything else was.
Yeah, but we also, before we forget to mention, we can't take away from the fact that you have an option where you could go online and the choices you've made on previous Dragon Age games affect this game. You can't take that. You know, for example, the way Hawk looks in the game.
Yeah.
You could definitely get into that and check how you know, and make Hawk look the way you had her or him looking in the previous game.
Yeah, I really liked how they gave you a lot of options on even things I couldn't even remember from the first two games. I mean, there just was a whole bunch of stuff. It would have been nice if they would have put that stuff in, you know, on the disc, and you could have done it in the game instead of having to go through the hassle of doing it on the website.
Yes, I agree I second that as well.
Because it was a real headache trying to get to the point where you could actually start customizing everything.
You know, one other reason I gave the game as a personal A, because yes, the game has online and is a great game overall, but you know, it would have been nice if some of the things you did online could have benefited you somehow offline.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of did that in Mass Effect 2. I mean, it had a very similar, or not Mass Effect 2, sorry, Mass Effect 3. It had a similar multiplayer setup. What had my hopes up for that multiplayer in Inquisition, you know, was the fact that you actually had dungeons to go through. Unfortunately, they gave us like three
dungeons where you could do all 3 dungeons within what, an hour and a half.
Yeah,
pretty much.
I mean, they didn't get randomized enough to where they would feel different every time you went in. You know,
exactly.
in Mass Effect 3, which I don't think you played the Mass Effect series, but you know, in that one you had, whenever you went into to do the multiplayer, you were in much smaller areas, but you would be hit with random objectives to try to get through the 10 waves and to try to survive those 10 waves. So even though you didn't, you know, you could traverse the entire area, the entire play area in about, you know, 10 seconds if you were dashing.
But there was multiple things to do
Yeah, like
in the playthrough, and unlike in Dragon Age, you just pretty much just play through it and either beat whoever you got to beat or and just keep it moving. That's pretty much I'm gonna beat you and that's it.
Yeah,
it's pretty much what was the online playthrough with the game.
Yeah. I think that if they could have done something that had a type of procedural generation, like a Diablo style thing to make your levels so it used the same resources, but your corridors, your turns changed, your enemies changed, and
yes,
that could have really helped it.
Yeah, I agree with I definitely agree with that 100%. Well, like I said, I personally give the game a solid 8. It was a great game with very minor flaws, and I enjoyed it, and I recommend it to anybody who wants to play it.
All right. Well, we've spent almost, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes talking about that, so I want to go ahead and get into talk a little bit about Final Fantasy 14, because that's something that both me and you have been playing since launch, and our other friend who he's not able to join us today, but hopefully you all will get to hear him in future podcasts. We've all been playing together on the same server since the game launched. So why don't you go ahead, Wrath, and give us some of your opinions on where we are now over a year after launch, about what's your general thoughts on the state of the game this far into it.
My personal favorite aspect of the game is the fact that we get so many updates, constant updates on a regular, and every update comes with new content, a new event, a new experience for every year. I mean, for every holiday, whether it's Christmas, Thanksgiving, President's Day, Valentine's Day, it doesn't matter. The game gives you something to enjoy for that season, for that moment.
Yeah.
And that to me personally is fun, because it shows that they're paying attention and interacting with their players. From where I started, let me see. I started as a Dragoon. I'm actually playing Paladin now. And, when I first started, I couldn't get to turn 9. It also depends on the server you're on. A lot of, if you're a social person and you put in the time, you could have a lot of fun in the game. And there's so many things you can do. Like still, I've been playing the game since launch, and I haven't done half of the things that you can do in the game. Still, haven't done, and I haven't even done half. And I've been playing for about almost 2 years now.
It's been about a year and a half since it came out, so it's close to that.
So,
because they've been so good about adding content. Like even if you're playing it every single day, you really, really, really have to have no life outside of the game to even come close to touching everything it has to offer. There's some aspects
they're so consistent. They're so consistent with it. There's a lot of storyline playthrough, which I can actually say has gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
With the updates that they keep adding into the game, the story has gotten a lot better.
I've still got a bit more to do from patch 2.5, but I have noticed that in 2.4 and 2.5, there are a lot more voice acted cutscenes in the main storyline.
But not only that, the storyline itself,
Yeah.
You see, even if you're not reading the story, you see cutscenes that means whoa, wait a second, I want to go back and know what's going on, because I wasn't paying attention, but this cutscene is showing me something completely, and I just think they put so much effort into doing a lot of things into the game that alone is what keeps me coming back to it.
Yeah. Well, and also, I can't speak for all the servers, but even on our server, and from what I've seen in general, the community of Final Fantasy 14 is a lot friendlier than most others that I've seen. You still get, the jerks and everything, and the stuff you expect to find in an MMO, but for the most part, it's one of the most friendly atmospheres I've ever seen in an MMO.
And I have to agree with you on that as well. You have like you said, you have your jerks, obviously, but I'm a player that came from Final Fantasy 11. I played Final Fantasy 11 for a good 3 years, and it was very complicated unless you was in a link show with somebody to learn content. In this game, you actually have people that are willing to help you and willing to teach you stuff, and I'll tell you like, hey, you're doing this like this, but you're supposed to do it like this.
Yeah.
And that is actually pretty cool in my opinion, because like I said, I came from Final Fantasy 11, where unless you was tossing Gil at somebody, nobody was worried. Nobody was trying to help you.
Yeah.
Unless you had an actual friend or anybody that actually cared and played with you, part of your link show, your team, it wasn't happening. Now in this one, you have the things called free company, and you have amount of what? If I'm not mistaken, 8 different link shows.
At least. I'm not sure what that cap is, but it's something like that. And the link shell is like, the link shell is what lets you, like anybody can join a link shell and communicate with each other over chat without any kind of other ties to, your guild or anything like that. So, like you can have for people who don't play the game, it's like, say, if you want one that's dedicated to crafting and to talk to other players about crafting, you can have that link shell to talk through your chat window, and if you got questions or things like that, and especially with those link shells, you get into those kind of groups, even though you're not in the same guild or things like that, a lot of people are really they're friendly and they'll answer your questions without being berating or otherwise jerkish. Very helpful, very friendly.
Yep, and that's one thing. Each link show can have a maximum of 128 members. So let's say you have all 8 link shows, and you have 128 members in each. That's a whole bunch of people you're playing with. That you could have a craft like you said, Riko Snow. You could have a crafting link show, a hunting link show, an end game link show, and a primal link show. And you could ask any of your link shows to help you. Hey guys, I'm in a certain situation. Can I get some help? And everybody's willing to help you. You have multiple people that will definitely raise their hand. Hey, you need help with this? Sure, no problem.
Yeah.
And that's something that I found really, really cool. And this is all besides the fact that you have your own free company, your own guild.
Yeah.
So that to me is just great.
And I also think that one thing I want to mention real quick is, I won't be surprised if we start to see talk about it soon. But the fact that we've not heard any kind of word about server mergers so far, this far into the game, it being a subscription-based game, I think is a really good. It shows the kind of confidence and stability that the players have in this game. That it shows that people who have been playing it have been sticking with it and not. Obviously you're going to have some fall off, but it's the fact that it's over a year old and hasn't gone free to play. Because DC Universe, it went free to play in like what?
A year?
If that.
No, not even. Probably less than that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was more than 6 months, but it was less than a year.
Yeah, definitely.
And which reminds me of something I wanted to talk about on this. Related. It's kind of related. It's me and you talked a bit before about how Sony Online Entertainment got sold to a third-party investment company. And SOE is the company that's over top of Final Fantasy, DC Universe, PlanetSide 2, EverQuest. A good collection of pretty well-known games. And I was just looking this morning and saw that Matt Higbee, who was the head of the PlanetSide 2 team, he resigned. He handed in his resignation or announced it, whatever. It was either yesterday or early today, one of those two. But anyway, I mean, he wasn't. He said that he had been thinking about doing this for some time, and the transition period where they've sold the company gave him a good, it was a good chance to go ahead and do it. But at the same time, like, I'm kind of curious to see what's going to happen with both Final Fantasy and PlanetSide 2, because they're both heading into some pretty important points in time right now. Final Fantasy's got their new expansion coming up, and PlanetSide 2 is currently in closed beta on PS4, and they're trying to get that done. And I'm kind of curious to see, is this move where Sony Online Entertainment is now no longer SOE, now that they're owned by a third party, are we going to see any of the development that has been going on get interrupted, for the sake of trying to push these games to be multi-platform, to try to get, Final Fantasy onto the Xbox One. Because, like we were just talking about, they've been very, very good so far about content updates, about keeping everything going. And if their new owners want to put Final Fantasy on the Xbox One, I don't know. What do you think about this? I mean, because to me, it would be good to have even more players that could be in the game. But at the same time, if they were to do this, would that mean we would all of a sudden be seeing updates every 3 or 4 months instead of every 2 until they got us caught up? I mean, what's your thoughts on this thing?
To be honest, I can't even elaborate because I don't even know the details on it. But
I mean, that's the thing. Nobody knows the details right now because they haven't officially said anything. But I mean, the fact that it's not a Sony company that owns it, they're going to want to take games on, put them on the Xbox One. I mean, that's pretty much a given. It's just we don't know. Are they only going to do that with the stuff that's new, like EverQuest Next, or are they going to try to port this existing stuff over?
Well, take into consideration that Final Fantasy 11, I don't think it was. I think Final Fantasy 11 never came out for that. Well, it did come out eventually, but I think it took them like 2-3 years before Xbox actually got Final Fantasy 11.
Yeah, the 360 got it after. Like you said, it was at least like 3 or 4 years before they got it.
Yeah, so I do think that it's a possibility that they might bring it to the Xbox. How do I feel about Xbox players playing as well? I really can't say. I feel it would be nice to have more players, obviously. But would that affect the fact that we get updates every 2 months? I hope not. And if it does, that would suck big time.
Yeah. Because, I guess that's the question here. I mean, if it came down to one or the other, would you rather say no to that section of players and not let them in to keep our updates going smooth, or would you be okay with seeing that be interrupted for a while to see our servers get, an extra boost of players?
I might sound a little selfish, but I honestly rather have my regular updates. I think the updates are definitely one of I think the fact that we get updates so often is definitely one of the reasons why we are able to. So, it's been so consistent. How the fact that it hasn't been free to play yet, due to the fact that we get regular updates, so on and so forth, is the fact that it's still a good game.
Yeah. So I mean, you could see yourself being afraid of losing interest if that got stretched out even a little bit. You could see that endangering your ability to stay focused on the game.
Not necessarily, not only mine alone, but most of the gamers, because it's something for a year and a half, it's something we've gotten accustomed to. Yeah. So you add more members, and then you take that away from us. Then it's something that we're gonna be like, oh, wait a minute, really, guys? Understand? At least this is my channel thought. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of other Final Fantasy gamers would agree with me. We're used to the content. We're used to the consistency. So if you take that away from us, you're jeopardizing the fact that how we're gonna want to play the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And if it would make you consider unsubscribing, I can just imagine what percentage of the player base would definitely unsubscribe, considering how loyal you've been so far.
Exactly,
But I mean, speaking of the future of the game, let's talk about Heaven's Ward a little bit, because I'm kind of excited about that.
I am super ecstatic. Like, can't even put into words. The thought of Dark Knight is just, oh my god. Oh my god.
Speaking of Dark Knight, I mean, all right, how much have you have you heard about how Dark Knight, the new jobs are going to be classless essentially?
Yes, that's what I heard, and that's something that that's, to me, is like, wow, how would that work?
Well, from what I've been able to tell, from what I've been able to gather, is essentially it's either going to be one of two things. I've not been able to see for sure whether it's going to be one or the other. I think it seems most likely that's going to be you start out level 1 Dark Knight Machinist or Astrologian. You start out as that, and it's just you simply start as the job. Right? There's no leveling the class to 30 and then a secondary to 15 and then transforming into the job. You just straight up start as the job from level 1 and level it up to 60 once we have the level cap from the expansion going up. But it's pretty much it's going to be like as if you were to it's essentially not going to be any different from what we already have, other than the fact that the name of your class, your job, whatever you want to call it, it's not going to change. It's going to be what it is from beginning to end.
So it's going to be similar to a gladiator or a marauder, pretty much, without you having to use a stone to turn into Dark Knight. You'll pretty much be. I mean, how a gladiator uses a stone to turn into a paladin, and a marauder uses his stone to turn into a warrior. So you're pretty much going to be just a solid Dark Knight without requiring a stone change to Dark Knight.
Right. It's either you'll start with the stone right from the beginning, or you just won't require it at all. It's just going to get rid of that extra step that you had to take. Because I mean, if you look at it, all right, neither one of us played 1.0. The first version of Final Fantasy 14 that was horrible, awful, and luckily for us got destroyed. But in 1.0, I do know that it was sometimes beneficial to stay in that base class rather than go into a dungeon as a job, because you could, in certain instances, be able to pull more abilities with your cross-class skills and do better in those dungeons. And then sometimes it was better to go as your job. Whereas when they remade it into a Realm Reborn, I've never seen anybody post 50 since the beginning of the game go into anything that was not a job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think they did that on purpose. I think that if they could have, they would have gotten rid of the whole class job distinction right from the get-go and just been, job from beginning to end. But between the lore that they already had set up for Eorzea, and between the fact that you had legacy players coming in from 1.0 and their characters carrying over, the existing classes and jobs needed to be there for everything to mesh properly. But now that they've pretty much done everything that they needed to do to fix what was wrong about 1.0, with this expansion, it seems like, this is their true starting point. Like, this is where they go, okay, everything's good. Now we can start doing our own ideas and doing our own things and doing things the way we want to do them, without having to just fix them to work the best way we can. And I think that this getting rid of the classes, I'm sure the old classes will still be there, but getting rid of, new jobs requiring classes and that whole mess, I think that's just one of the things that we'll see that's going to be an improvement on the game going forward.
I definitely agree with that. But, it makes me curious. One second. It makes me curious. For us players like you and like yourself and I, who have leveled our classes and our jobs, how would that affect us if they just completely take out the classes and stuff?
Well, I don't think that they're going to get rid of the classes that already exist. I just think that with
future reference.
Yeah, I just think that any new jobs we see from here, I don't think we'll see any additions like Ninja in the future. I think that any new jobs that we see get added are going to be their own thing.
See, but my thought, of the situation, I think it would have been my personal thought. If I would have done something like that, I would have thought that they would have, picking up a class, let's say Dark Knight, two-handed weapon, pick up Marauder. If you have a Marauder level 50, then you always going to have a Dark Knight level 50. You just have to do the Dark Knight quest and do all of the quests so you can get all of the Dark Knight skills. These are my personal thoughts.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason why they didn't do that is, if you were to do that, chances are a lot of your skills would basically be Marauder skills. And, you would just have those few Dark Knight things. You would just have a little bit different there. Whereas since they're making Dark Knight its own job and its own class, that gives them the freedom to make it play exactly how they want that role to play. And they can make it feel different completely from Warrior with its, by giving it its own full set of skills, its own unique skill set.
Yeah, the way you explain it makes more sense. It's perfectly, it's its own. Dark Knight is its own person, pretty much.
Yeah.
They don't want to be, I want to be a half of a Marauder or a half of a Gladiator. I want to be myself. Yes, it makes perfect sense when you explain it like that. And I have to say I agree with you. But enough on the Dark Knight. What do you think about the Gunner class? What is the proper name they're calling it?
Machinist.
Machinist. What do you think about Machinist? I've seen pictures, and the Machinist looks like a really badass DPS. The fact that it can place turrets, I personally don't know because I personally haven't read anything about what the turrets can actually do. But just the thought that you as a DPS, and then you're able to place turrets down, and they could help you DPS as well. That personally to me is just, wow, that's cool.
I think that the idea of it's really cool. But I also think that it's going to be like, all right, if those, it depends on how those turrets actually work. There's different turrets for the class, and we don't know exactly what their functions are going to be, whether they're just going to be stationary or whether they can fly around. Are they going to be resistant to damage in the same way that your pets are from, Arcanist and, your summoner.
No, summoner pets are not resistant to damage. They get damage just like they do. They have a strong. They have more defense and more health, more hit points, but they're not immune to damage at all.
I thought your Aggies and your fairies were able to avoid certain types of AoEs and stuff.
Oh yeah. Certain types of AoEs,
Yeah.
yes, but not all types. When you see, you confused me when you said that they're immune to damage. I thought you were trying to say that monsters
Right,
can.
right. Well, yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about. It's like your AoEs and stuff, So,
Certain ground AoEs do not affect
right.
your EOS, your Selene, your Garuda, Ifrit, and Titan, which is something. Now that we got onto that topic, it's something actually that I'm craving for. When are we gonna get other summons? When are summoners gonna get other summons? We already have Garuda. We already have Garuda, Ifrit, and Titan, but there's also Leviathan,
Yeah. Well,
Ramu, and
the last
Shiva.
thing that I had heard on that was that I had seen, because a lot of people thought that they were going to get a Leviathan summon when, because that was like the first new primal battle. And, when it didn't come, Yoshi P, he pretty much said, we don't want to, for one, we don't want to add it unless it can be something different from what the current summons already do. And two, they don't want to give that whole new realm of, that whole new power to, your summoners without doing something for the rest of your classes. And I can
Well,
kind
if
of
they,
see that point,
I
but
definitely, the way you say yes, I could definitely see that as well. It will be, hey, if they do that, I personally would like to see my dragon with a wyvern. Yeah, I've been saying that since the game started.
yeah, since before the game started, like, but who knows? I mean, we've seen obviously dragoons are going to play a part in the new expansion. Obviously, it has to do with this dragon war. Maybe you're going to finally get that. They haven't said anything, but you know, maybe you dragoons from FF11 are going to finally get that neat little extra bit.
see, I understand why they haven't added into the game yet, because dragoons in this game pretty much hate dragons.
Yeah.
Where in Final Fantasy 11, a dragoon was pretty much loved his dragons.
Right.
So I can understand that. But the thought of me finally having a wyvern is pretty much this is those. That's the only way I can pretty much say it. And yes, I want my wyvern.
But to get back to machinist, right? Uh, I because it does have those turrets. I do think that a lot of the strategy to that job is going to be how you place them, where you place them. And I can just, on one hand, it seems really fun, but then on the other, thinking of taking that into a fight like Titan Extreme, that sounds awful. If it can be hit by all that, even
No,
half of
see,
those AOE's.
but see, that's like I was saying. Certain moves. Well, if they make it like a what you gonna call it, like the like the EOS and the Eggies, definitely ground moves, definitely, because if you're taking a machinist into a Titan fight and your turret gets hit by landslide, ugh, that's definitely gonna suck.
Yeah.
So I understand what you mean by that.
Yeah. So I mean,
But
it looks like it can be really cool. Um, we just don't know how it's going to work yet. And plus, the only thing I have right now is DPS anyway. So if I do pick up one of the new ones, it's probably going to be the Astrologian.
Well, speaking of the Astrologian, what do you think about the Astrologian? I'm a Final Fantasy junkie. I've never heard of anything in a Final Fantasy game called Astrologian. So this is brand new to me.
Yeah, well, even if it was in a past one, it would have maybe been in something like 5 that had, just a ton of different jobs. But even then, that would still make it pretty obscure. And, again, it sounds like, I know this is going to sound weird, but the way that they've talked about Astrologian is it almost sounds like a mix between White Mage, Bard, and Monk. And the reason why I say Monk is the way that they talk about the combinations of the cards makes me think that instead of just using straight up abilities the way like a White Mage or a Scholar does, it almost sounds like you'll be doing like combos, right? Like the way that your monks and guys like that will do. And that, you'll have to, depending on the way you combo your abilities together, will have different effects. So I'm kind of expecting this class to seem like it's a stronger healer, but at the same time it will require a bit more skill in order to tap that potential, right? Whereas with White Mage, if you're in this situation, you pretty much use this spell. If you're in that one, you use that spell. Whereas this one, I could see like, you won't be able to adapt super quickly the way like a White Mage could to quickly heal one guy who all of a sudden took major damage. But, at the same time, you could build up that combo and do like more powerful AoE heals or things of that nature if you can anticipate things ahead of time.
Well, I personally am not gonna. I'm gonna tell you, I have not read into anything at all whatsoever of it. But it sounds to me like it has potential to be a fun class. Would I be personally be able to play it? I don't think so, and that's not it's not nothing towards the job itself. It's just the fact that I already have a White Mage leveled.
Right.
I already have a Scholar leveled, and I just cannot possibly see myself doing any other healing classes. Like, I really can't see it.
Well, see, that's what I'm kind of hoping that we see with this is that it's not enough to make the guys who already have, strong healer builds go out and make another healer build. But it would get guys like me who don't have one at all be like, okay, I couldn't get behind White Mage or I couldn't get into Scholar enough to actually enjoy doing it. But this, looks like it might actually make me want to do healing. So, which can only be good, get more people to be able to do more classes, gives you more versatility. Everybody gets in more dungeons.
Yeah. Point well made.
Okay, before we run out of time for the podcast, we do want to talk a bit about Dragon Ball Xenoverse, which comes out next week. As I know I'm looking forward to it. I plan on buying it day one. I know you plan on buying it day one.
Definitely.
I don't know. I mean, it is being made by Dimps. The guys that did the PlayStation 2 Budokai games.
Which is one of the main reasons I have chosen to get the game.
Yeah. So even though it's going to be, it looks like it's got that look of like the Tenkaichi games, but from, I've not been able to put my hands on it, but from what I've seen, it looks kind of like the combos and stuff are more reminiscent of the Budokai stuff rather than the Tenkaichi stuff.
Well, I don't have a problem with the Tenkaichi playthrough style of playthrough. My biggest concern with the game is if we take a step back and think about the last Dragon Ball Z game. Oh my God, that game was that game was. I had such an expectation for the game. I was so excited for it, and
Now you're talking about Ultimate Tenkaichi, right?
Exactly, yes, sir.
Yeah, because there was one after that one, which was Battle of Z, but in my opinion, it was worse.
Well, well, thank God I didn't even play it. But oh my God, like when you create a Dragon Ball Z game and you give players, Dragon Ball Z fans, because hey, I'm a huge Dragon Ball Z fan. I don't care who you are, and I know you're not gonna like this, Vegeta's still the best Dragon Ball Z character there is.
Oh, hands down.
But when you tell us you're able to create a character in a Dragon Ball Z game, any genuine fan of Dragon Ball Z game, the first thing he thinks about are a Namekian, a Saiyan, an alien from like the Frieza.
Yeah.
These are the three main classes you think about, right? So, with that being said, when you give us the ability to change, to create a character as a Saiyan, and then you limit the possibilities of it to Super Saiyan 2, that is such a heartbreak.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about the limits that was in Ultimate Tenkaichi.
You limit us to creating Saiyan characters. Big flaw, in my opinion. You don't give us Namekians. You don't give us humans. You don't give us nothing. You just, hey, we're going to make you're allowed to create a character and he's a Saiyan. Now, you're able to create a character and he's a Saiyan, but the furthest you can go is Super Saiyan 2. That was a heartbreaker. Let's not even get into the fighting of the game. It was the worst fighting. It was the worst thing ever.
It was just pretty much a collection of quick time events. I mean, there's really no other way that you can put that. Because outside of the quick time events, you had nothing pretty much.
And then all you pretty much had to do was either finish a combo off with triangle to boost up your energy bar to be able to do your ultimate, or do box. And it was so predictable. If no matter who you was playing, all you had to pretty much was look at their health bar and their power bar.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, yeah. I could probably talk all day about what was wrong with that one, but with the one that comes out Tuesday, I'm hoping that they're actually going to do everything right. Everything that I've seen has me very hopeful. It looks like it'll be the best game we've had since probably Burst Limit. I think it'll be better than Burst Limit. I don't know if it'll be better than, Budokai 3 or Tenkaichi 3, but it definitely looks like it's going to be fun. The only thing that I haven't seen in any trailers or anything, it's really kind of nitpicky, but one of the things I loved the best about the Budokai 3 and the Tenkaichi 3 was, your big super attacks that could destroy the environment, and you could see the explosion from space.
Yeah, that's something I can second that with you. The fact that you could do a gigantic Kamehameha wave and leave the big crater in the center of the battlefield, and just continue to fight.
Because when, at least with me and my friends, when we were playing, winning the fight was only half of the bragging rights. If you were to get full bragging rights, you not only had to win the fight, but you also had to be the one to blow up the level, pretty much. If you did one without the other, it was kind of Yeah, you only kind of went halfway with that.
Yeah, I understand what you were saying. Well, to second that as well, where me and my friends when I played the game it was more of a, do you have enough skills to catch me in your ultimate special?
Oh yeah.
Because if you recall correctly, in the Budokai series, in order to do your ultimate special, you had to go into ultimate mode. One, then two, you had a limited amount of time to catch an opponent with it because your bars kept going down. And the minute he went down, you would snap out of ultimate mode, snap out of Super Saiyan mode, whatever form you was in, and you would pretty much be had to catch your breath. And in that slight second that you had to catch your breath, the opponent could have caught you with his. So it was, you got bragging rights for catching an opponent with your ultimate move and beating him. So I completely understand what you're saying because it was the same way on my side. So that's something that I'm definitely as well looking forward to see like I said, the craters that you leave behind from a big bang or a freaking destroyed city from a Final Flash or Final Shine or something. Like I'm excited about the game. And then from discussing it with you, the fact that I don't know, we don't know much about the character creation mode, but when you discussed a few things and you brought to my attention that you were able to create multiple race in the game.
Yeah, like I know that you've got Saiyan, human, and they're gonna have the kind of items in there so that even though technically you're human, you can make yourself look like an android, like with the right clothing and stuff like that.
Yes.
But it's not its own separate thing, but you can have that look if you want.
Yes.
And then of course you've got the Boo race and the Frieza's race. Now, one thing I did see though is that there are a lot of the clothing options and stuff you can get are limited by race. So like, I don't know.
Before you continue.
Yeah.
The race, they're not gonna give you Namekians?
Yeah, you'll have Namekians.
Okay. Because I didn't hear you mention Namekians, so I gotta whoa, wait a minute.
I probably forgot to.
You're gonna cut out Piccolo? Piccolo's pretty much the only black guy in Dragon Ball Z.
I never thought about it like that, but okay.
So you were saying about the clothing is pretty much limited to your race, so on and so forth. Keep going.
Yeah, so like it sounded like like you might not be able to put like say Piccolo's gear on like a Majin character.
Okay.
I don't know how limited that's going to be, but I do know that there are some limits that certain races can only equip certain kind of clothes.
That would make sense. Like it would be strange to see an Namekian in a freaking Saiyan battlesuit armor.
Yeah. I'm
saying that's just my opinion. And a Namekian with a radar on. Well, wait a minute. Hold on. I'm just excited because if from what you told me, because I haven't pretty much looked into it. I'm buying the game based on what you've told me, and come on, who doesn't want to kick his friend's ass in a Dragon Ball Z game? Hello, I'm definitely one of those guys.
Yeah, well, and I mean, we haven't had a fun Dragon Ball Z game since the PS2. Now, we had Burst Limit on PS3 that was okay, but it was a solid game, but it didn't have the fun of like the Budokais.
Another thing that I enjoyed in prior Dragon Ball Z games, mainly the Budokais. I don't recall. Did I play Burst Limit? Is Burst Limit the one where you can get the what if story of making Broly a Super Saiyan 3?
No, that was in the Raging Blast series, which I never got to play any of those. Burst Limit was the one that played like Budokai, and it was all shiny and everything. It was like it came out really soon after the PS3 launched.
Okay, well, I don't recall playing that one. But one of the things that I really enjoy in the Budokai series, and then what was the one that I just said?
Raging Blast.
and Raging Blast was the what if story.
Yeah.
Those are, they're not real story, real scenarios, but they're fun. What if Krillin would have pushed Android 18 out the way and Cell would have absorbed him?
Oh yeah, that was one. That was probably my favorite one there when you had the Krillin Cell hybrid.
Yeah, exactly. To me, that was hilarious. What if Majin Buu would have absorbed Tien and not Gohan? And that, these are things that, I really did enjoy.
Yeah, like
I'm sorry for the noise in the background. Typical New York stuff, by the way.
yeah, you can't really help that. But yeah, I mean that's one of the things that's got me really excited about this one is because you've got an entire story mode that's pretty much a what if story mode.
And see, that's another reason that I'm like, okay, now I'm more excited about the game, so on and so forth, just because you can, a what if story, multiple race creation character, because I'm a big fan of creating your own character games. That's because I feel like it gives me the chance to put my own personal input in a video game.
Yeah.
So that's, to me, it's one of the best things in the game. One of the reasons I like playing the Dynasty Warrior series. It's a hack and slash game, whatever, but Dynasty Warriors Empire gives you the ability to create your own character, and you walk around feudal China and doing whatever you want.
And there's a new Dynasty Warriors coming out this week too, isn't there?
Yes, sir. If I'm not mistaken, it's coming out on the 24th, and that is a Tuesday.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah, their video game releases usually are on Tuesdays.
So yeah, it's coming out on Tuesday. I'm excited about it already. Like I said, I'm a Dynasty Warriors fan, but not only because of the gameplay, not only because of the character creation, because it takes you into a time that you want to read about feudal China, or the war that was going on in feudal China with the rebellions, with the three kingdoms. It's a game that's also based on history of China.
Yeah, well, that's why I always liked the Nobunaga's Ambition games.
Yeah, those are similar games. If not, I think aren't they created by the same people? Kuwait. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah, they do. They do that. They do Nobunaga. They do the Samurai Warriors.
Warriors Orochi.
Yeah, like all of those like Asian feudal era historical games. They pretty much do all of those.
Okay. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to that Dynasty Warrior game, because not only the fact that they give you so much more options about creating a character. You get to create your character. You get to create your horrors. Before, you wasn't able to create your village. You pretty much was either starting at one town, wherever the town looked, and building up from there and capturing areas around it. But now in this one, they give you the chance to create. Well, you're not creating. You're pretty much customizing the way you want your town to look and build it from the ground up. But that's not the only options you have. When you go into the Empire mode, you can also choose to side with one of the three kingdoms as well. You can side. So you have multiple options. If you don't want to side with anybody, you could be what's that word I'm looking for? When you are a warrior for hire, they're called something.
Well, if it was Japanese, I'd say Ronin, but I don't think they use the same word.
No, it's not Ronin. But I'm looking for the English version that we use it.
Like a mercenary?
Yeah, exactly. You could be a mercenary.
Okay.
A mercenary in the game where the feudal lords will pay you to change the outcome of this battle, of that battle. And, you build your reputation like that. which is also it's also a cool change of events. You know, before they didn't give you the option of marriage. Now you have the option of marrying any character you like.
So it sounds like they're making a lot of changes to this version, which
Yeah,
is kind of odd for like the Dynasty Warriors series. You usually don't see much change from version to version.
exactly. You know, see, but that's personally why I like the. Because you got to remember, when one Dynasty Warriors series releases Dynasty Warriors. Let's say, for example, the next Dynasty Warriors to be released will be Dynasty Warriors 9. It'll be Dynasty Warriors 9, Dynasty Warriors Empire, no, Dynasty Warriors Extreme Legends, and then Dynasty Warriors Empire. Okay, with Empire is the only one that you get the chance to create your own character. Pretty much Dynasty Warriors 8, I mean 9 would be pretty much a better graphic of Dynasty Warriors 8.
Right.
Um, Dynasty Warriors Extreme Legends would be better graphics with an addition of a character or two. Then you get Dynasty Warriors Empire, where it is pretty much focused on what you want to do. You create your character, you create this, you do the story the way you want to. If you want to play through the storyline of the game, you can do that. That's whatever you want. Or you can build your character and revolve the story around him, however you want it. So on and so forth.
So in this one that's coming out, are you going to have more options? Like, is there going to be any kind of actual gameplay, like in between the fights, like to actually like build up your town and things like that?
Yes, they will. Yes, they will. Another cool thing that they added to the game this time around is the ability where the weather can change the outcome. For example, you have the ability to set a time. You're attacking a city, a town, and you want to set it on fire. If the wind is blowing strongly, the fire, and you're, let's say you're in the south, and the wind is blowing from the north. That fire attack could backfire on you. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, that's interesting.
Because as the wind will be blowing towards you, where your cavalry will be burning up instead of their side.
Right.
And it goes, and let's say you decide to start a fire attack, and it is raining that day. Your fire attack would be irrelevant. You're pretty much adding the elements of the world to how you're gonna attack. So you got to take everything into consideration when you do decide to go attack a town and take over. Because pretty much the whole concept of the Dynasty Warriors thing is to unite Japan. I mean China. My apologies. Yeah. To unite China.
So I mean, it sounds like in this one you're gonna have a lot more to the gameplay other than just go to this zone, whack a bunch of people until they're all dead, and then go to the next zone and whack a bunch of people in that one.
Yes. And that is the main reason I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, because I've not played too much in that series. I have played the Dynasty Warriors Gundam, and I have a lot of fun playing that, but without anything beyond that hack and slash, there's only so long that I can play before I need a little something more.
I agree with you completely, because like I said, I'm a Dynasty Warriors fan. I will buy the first series, the first version, which is 8, like I said. I'll play it. I'll max out my favorite character, do the storyline, unlock all the characters, and just like a lot of other games, to collect Dusty Golds.
Yeah.
But with the Empire series, you get to do more stuff. You get to enjoy the game more, and that's one of the reasons I stopped getting the first release, and I always just wait till the Empire series of that game comes out, because when you could a hack and slash game, you could pretty much finish it in a matter of days. Like you said, you played a Gundam game, the Gundam series, Dynasty Warriors Gundam, right?
Yeah.
Picture yourself sitting there in a Dynasty Warrior Gundam game, being able to design your own Gundam, your own starship, your own planet where you're pretty much settled at, your own person, your own people you're fighting for, whatever the situation may be. But the Gundam looks the way you want it to look, uses the ability you want it to look. Personally, if I was creating a Gundam, he would have to look like Wing Zero.
Yeah, I don't know. It would either look like Wing Zero or like be half Wing Zero and half Death Scythe. Because, come on, Death Scythe.
Yeah, Death Scythe look badass. They look badass. Okay, I can't front. Besides the fact that Death Scythe Wing Zero didn't look as great as Death Scythe, but the pilot alone gives it that extra oof. We're like, okay. And what about the other one, the red one with the whips? I forgot his name.
What, the Epion?
Epion looked hot as hell too. Can't take that either. I'm just saying. Epion looked the badass.
I was kind of surprised that at least I played the first one and I played number 3, and in those, there wasn't no kind of options to make your own Gundam, which I thought was kind of weird considering they already had like all those hundreds of Gundams in there. I don't see it wouldn't seem too difficult to be able to just swap some pieces around and make your own.
Exactly, and or personally, if you don't want to give us the Wing Zero lookalike, you give me a Burning Gundam lookalike. Did you ever get to catch the Burning Gundam series?
Yeah, Gundam G.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be okay with that too. But like I said, I'm pretty sure you would like the game a lot more if you could get more to it, more of like, damn, I want to create my own Gundam.
Yeah, because I would love to see either a Dynasty Warriors or a Samurai Warriors, especially, that had a bit more of the strategy from Nobunaga's Ambition with the action of the Dynasty Warrior series. Because I love the strategy in Nobunaga's Ambition, where you balance everything. You take care of food, making sure you're prepared for floods, and you've got political stuff like marriages and alliances and all that stuff. But the battle system has never been good in Nobunaga's Ambition. I mean, it's either been extremely simplified or extremely simplified and horrible, and that's pretty much been your two options.
Yeah.
But if you could have that kind of action system of a Dynasty Warriors mixed in there with that would be amazing in my book. But
I think that's why they're aiming for now with the Dynasty Warriors Empire series. Because come on, we all know that we're gonna get tired and bored of the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
So give us something else to play with. Give us something to poke here and poke there and tap this and tap that. Oh, maybe I like him with long hair. Maybe I like him with short hair. Maybe I want him to have skull armor or something. Whatever your preference is. Give us something unique. Give us something different. Give us something where we could say, this game stands out like a mother effer.
Or you can be like, I don't know, like EA and just release the same Madden every year and hope nobody notices.
Yeah, come on, really? Just increase the graphics of it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's debatable.
That's debatable. We'll save the Madden talk for another day.
Yeah, like I could rant about Madden for an entire hour. But I'm not going to do that right now.
I feel your pain. Hey, personally, I've never been a Madden fan. I like more the Blitz football games. That's just my preference.
Yeah. Well, see, I've always liked, I loved, which I don't know anybody who didn't. But did you ever play the 2K, like the ESPN 2K football games before EA bought the license?
No, sir. But then take into consideration that I'm not a football fan.
Right. Well, back during the Xbox and PS2 days, a couple of years before EA bought the NFL license, they put out a game that was $20, brand new. It was $20, and it was 5 times better than what Madden is today.
Wow.
Yeah. And so basically what EA did was they just said, okay, NFL, we're going to buy your license so that no one else is allowed to make a football game with NFL teams so we don't have any competition. And that's what they did. So they've been pumping out essentially crap for the past 10 years because they don't have any competition.
Hey, it pretty much sells it sells. People still buy it. Madden for the PlayStation 4, Madden for the PlayStation 3, Madden
because
for the
that's
PlayStation
the only option
2.
they got. They can't go anywhere else to get NFL football.
You're right. But it's like I'm not a baseball fan either. But those 2K baseball games are woof. The graphics, the gameplay, they're woof. Real. I'm a basketball head, so I play all the 2K. Like earlier today, I was trying 2K 15 for the first time. The graphics are okay. The gameplay,
yeah, I heard that the NBA 2K15 it wasn't really worth the upgrade this year.
It's pretty much I pretty much felt like I was playing 2K14 just with better graphics and slower what's the word I'm looking for? Slower gameplay.
Like the guys felt like they were chunkier.
Yeah, and they were moved slower. Like if I was gonna dunk, it was a lot slower than 2K14. Okay, I get it. You want to fix the graphics. You want to increase the detail in every movement of the player. But when you make the game, even though I had the speed increased up, and I still felt like I was moving super slow.
Well, so that's a problem I have. It's not with just any one sports game. It's in almost every sports game I've played, whether it be NBA, 2K, or Madden, or whatever. Is like they're all trying to go for straight up simulation, which is fine, but
it's a video game.
Yeah, I think that if they're not going to do it, somebody should be making a sports game that falls between arcade and simulation. Something it's not as far arcade as like NBA Jam or NFL Blitz.
Or Streets or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. You don't want to make it that much arcade.
But something that's just fun to play. Even if you're not a super hardcore fan of the sport, you can pick it up, play it, have fun, and have an appropriate level of challenge.
Exactly, and come back to it multiple times. But I think that they're going way too hard on this simulation. But just like I said, that's just our opinion. I'm pretty sure that there will be other people who have different opinions to that, and we would love to hear it, obviously. But I don't know. I think they need to give it more arcade. Hey, I miss the street games. I'm not gonna lie to you. I miss them like crazy. PlayStation 2 street games, well, those were my games.
I don't think I ever played any of the games in that series.
Oh man, you needed to pick up that. You need to sit on your computer. You're a computer genius and play one of the street games. Just to entertain yourself, so you can see. It's just the dunks. It's pretty much street ball with a little extra oof to it.
What, like with a little splash of NBA Jam thrown in there?
Would I say NBA Jam? No, it was a little more oof than NBA Jam. NBA Jam had his oof. Oh, the ball's on fire. No, it had a little more. It had a lot more oof than NBA Jam. You felt like you was like watching a whole bunch of real old school globetrotter black people dunking and tossing the ball in the air and doing all kinds of stuff that you would only see in comic book, but at the same time, you were still playing basketball.
I got you.
It's not like you will jump in the air. Your partner, you pretty much the game consists of a 3-man game. That's the biggest team you had, a 3-man game.
Yeah.
Right? You will pretty much play whoever you want was playing, and you was even playing NBA teams at the time. They would take the 3 best players of each and every single NBA team and put them against your top 3 players. Pretty much whenever you beat a team in the NBA, you was able to take one of the players and put them on your team. So let's say I would have played the Lakers. Let's say I played the 2001 Lakers. You had Shaq, Kobe, and let's say Derek Fisher.
Right.
If you chose by any chance, if you played the Lakers and you was like, I want Shaq because Shaq is a monster and Shaq could block shots, you was able to pick Shaq and throw him in your team and put him whenever you played a team, throw him in there. The Streets series was street ball with a little bit of imagination, with a little bit of prison ball. Because you would see these guys jump to dunk the ball, and you would have somebody big like Shaq, and you see that guy just jump in the air and just smack the ball, and you see your tune just fall on the ground like dum. Like, oh, he just killed them, but you see him get up like nothing and just run back up the court. It was a fun game. It was a fun game, and then you had your little, you built up your little rep throughout the game, and you hyped up the crowd. And when you hyped the crowd up to the certain amount of point, you was able to do your rim breaker special, which is pretty much you could do it by yourself, or you could do it with your whole entire team. For example, you had Kobe, your character, and Shaq. You'll send Shaq to jump in the air. You jump right behind. Shaq will have the ball. He'll jump in the air, throw it to you. You will flip, and right before you will hang against the rim. You will not dunk the ball. You will hang on the rim, throw it off the backboard. Kobe Bryant will come, flip, twirl, spin, backflip, do all of this stuff in the air, and dunk the ball. You had the whole crowd super excited because, oh my God, you did some crazy. It's right there. But even though you had a little bit of imagination, it was fun.
Well, it sounds like it. It sounds like it's got the same kind of things that made it fun, that made like your NBA Jam and your NBA Hang Time fun.
Hang Time. Oh my God. That's old. That's old. Jesus. Oh, I remember that. I had a character with a clown mask on in that game.
I always was the Wolf Man.
Mad Dog. I put you that was your nickname.
I can't remember what I named him. I just remember I always had the wolf head and doing crazy dunks with that dude.
Yes. And it was weird because you was able to pick Michael Jordan on your team and go even crazier. It was you and Jordan against whoever the other two wanted to be.
Well, I don't think Hang Time had Jordan. I think he was in Jam, but I don't think he was in Hang Time.
I recall him being in. No, you're right. He wasn't because he was retired when the game came out.
Yeah. Because you had everybody else, you had Pippen and Rodman and all them. But
you're right. I remember. You're right. Jordan wasn't on there. You're right. I remember. Jordan wasn't there. You're right. I played the game a few times on the arcade across the street in the laundromat that we had from where I used to live when I was a child. But man, those were the days. And I think I ended up buying the game. I ended up begging my mom to buy me the game for what? I think it was for Nintendo 64.
I know when I had it on Genesis.
Was it on Genesis? Then it had to be Genesis. They had to. Yep, I'm pretty sure it was Genesis because, it had to be Sega Genesis then. Because obviously the game wasn't hot for Nintendo 64. Because the Nintendo 64 came way after Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
So it had to be for Sega Genesis as well. I knew it was a black system, just wasn't sure which one. Oh, man.
Well, that's going to have to do it for this episode. So glad you could stop and listen. Before we go, we want to let you know about our first contest where you can win a $25 gift card to GameStop. For details, you can find me, Riko Snow, that's R-I-K-O, Snow, on Facebook, where the details on how you can win will be posted. If you have a question or comment, you can message me on Facebook or email us at rikosnowgameshow@gmail.com. So if you have a topic you want to hear us cover, or if you would like to be a special guest on the show, send us an email. Again, that's rikosnowgameshow@gmail.com. That'll do it for this episode. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to seeing you next time on the Riko Snow Game Show.